Hi, I'm Woody Huffines with NerdsToGo in McKinney in Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. So, is the Internet of Things going to help us with the coronavirus pandemic? I read a lot in the tech press, and one of the things that I read in the tech press was an article about how the Internet of Things and Internet of Things devices might help us with pandemics in the future. Not necessarily the coronavirus pandemic, but other pandemics. And the guy that wrote the article said one of the reasons that he thought about this is that during the SARS breakout, the severe acute respiratory syndrome problem that we had, that when he flew in Southeast Asia and went to get off the airplane, they had people standing around with infrared cameras looking for people with fevers. And if you had a fever when you got off the airplane, they would bring you over and check you out to make sure that you didn't have SARS or see what kind of problem that you were having. And so he got to thinking, well, why couldn't you use Internet of Things devices like Internet of Things cameras that were infrared cameras to monitor the people that came off of airplanes and then aggregate that data into a big database, and then you could pinpoint where there were being lots of people with fevers, and you could see what their body temperature were of a whole bunch of people and start making decisions about what was spreading and how it was spreading and how disease was spreading. And I thought the article was interesting. Scary, but interesting. I didn't bookmark the article, so I went back to search for the article. So I searched in, how could IoT help with, and then I got the suggestions. And I'll have to read them to you because I couldn't make them up or remember them. How could the IoT help with brush fires, anxiety, agriculture, depression, deforestation, weight loss, acne, hair loss, climate change, and, wait for it, constipation? Maybe we're expecting a little too much out of our Internet of Things devices. We've talked a lot about the Internet of Things devices in your house and the privacy and security concerns just for those things in the house. Now imagine going out and having all of those detection devices and all of that information and all of that stuff out in public everywhere. Facial recognition cameras, cameras checking for temperature. How about body mass index guesses based on your weight? How much information could they collect on a population if you had Internet of Things level devices everywhere? Now, this is going to be enabled by 5G. The new 5G or fifth generation cell network is so much faster and has so much more bandwidth that it's going to be, like everything else in technology, a lot less expensive to move a lot more data very quickly. And it's the lot more data that's really the problem. When we talk about big data, we're talking about volume, variety, and velocity. The volume is how much data is getting stored in the big data databases. The variety is how broad that data is, how much information it is, how many different data elements that it has, how much variety is in the data, and the velocity, the speed with which the data is collected and the speed with which the data is stored. So you have a 5G network, and it's pretty inexpensive to put a bunch of 5G devices out there. Then everywhere you go could potentially be using this Internet of Things infrastructure to learn a lot more about you, far more about you than is just in your home. Think about it. What if vending machines then made an estimate of your BMI and then looked at the things that you bought in the vending machine based on your BMI, so then when you walk up to a vending machine, it looks to see how fat you are and decides what it tries to sell you, for good or ill. Whether it decides you need to eat healthy because you're overweight or because you need to eat something that's got a lot of fat and sugar in it because you're underweight. Or how about facial recognition linked with advertising? Let's say a vending machine company gets facial recognition and they know what you buy most of the time when you go to a vending machine or when you drive up to the Sonic drive-in. As soon as you drive into the drive-in, the facial recognition knows who you are and categorizes a bunch of stuff, and they sell something to you on special today, and they do it based on you. This would extend the things that are irritating so many people about privacy concerns on Google, because if you search one thing on Google, the next thing you know, every ad you're seeing on Facebook and Google and on Instagram is for that thing that you searched on Google that was a one-of thing. Well, that's taking action where you're searching for something, you're doing something that stimulates that search. In an Internet of Things device society where it was everywhere, you wouldn't have to do anything but walk down the sidewalk for them to decide that they could collect the information about you, store it in a big database, and market to you. Yikes. Even without the spread of Internet of Things devices, because of big data, they can tell a lot about you just from the social interactions you have now. There was a study on Facebook that based on your likes, just based on what you hit the thumbs up for in Facebook, they could determine a male's sexual orientation with 98% accuracy. Your race or ethnicity with 88% accuracy. Your political affiliation with 85% accuracy. And that's just the slice of data that's what you like and what you dislike on Facebook. Imagine if they could use all of that data for every place you go, everything you do in the society as a whole. And remember, if the Internet of Things vendors, like we talked earlier, video up here, about all the stuff that your Ring doorbell sends kids, well, what if Amazon starts making Internet of Things devices and they know that your phone connects to these devices at that house and that your phone connected to this device out in public? Then because you have a Ring doorbell at home, Amazon could identify you, even if they say that they anonymize the data, every place you go in the world. Here's the challenge. It's kind of like the Star Wars movies and the Sith. And anyway, if we start thinking in terms of Internet of Things devices, and we get sold the idea that Internet of Things devices would be really good to help us from a pandemic, how that data gets established, what it is that drives us to allow that into our lives, doesn't control what happens to it on the back end. Yeah, sounds like great for the Internet of Things devices to help us with coronavirus and constipation. But at the end of the day, what's it going to cost us as a society and us as individuals in our privacy to do so? Internet of Things security just gets harder and harder the more you think about it. I'm Woody Huffines. I own the NerdsToGo in McKinney and Frisco, Texas. This has been Tech for the Untechnical. Hit the subscribe button, mash the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, leave us a comment. We'll see you next time.